Snažila som sa vám pripraviť prezentáciu, motivátori pre nich je to úplne, že...
Prepared a presentation regarding the motivators. For motivators, this is easy and well known, but the others who don't know so exactly, I just want to show what does that mean to be a motivator, how does it look like in reality. Motivator, first of all, inspires a client to carry out own activities, and of course it is based on a peer-to-peer support. The expert preparation of motivators, it was quite difficult because we needed to train them for this profession, and this is all based on the fact motivator is not a social worker. Motivator is not on the same level because the social worker is a profession with expert knowledge, but we needed to train motivators. It was 160 hours of a training to prepare them to work with clients, not only on social aspects, but also in other spheres regarding the expert care of the motivator. Motivators work with people with disabilities, so it is a very hard work, and we also need to take care of the motivators, and we are trying to, with some expert consultants, we are consulting with psychologists and with experts to guarantee good quality work. At the beginning, when we prepared this methodology, we also, of course, had in mind a basic code of conduct or ethical code of the motivators, which contains all the description. It was the basic standards of these ethical norms. So the motivator, when this relationship is very intensive and the client cannot somehow break this bond, it's important so the motivator is able to handle this kind of situation. So we have this ethic code, we have these ethical standards which we prepared and elaborated. What do we offer? We looked at the Act on social services that we have. What are the basic services within this act? What should this motivator provide? So this is social consultancy, so to help the client in his home environment using the familiar environment and social surrounding of the client. This is really crucial because it is work in the field, and that's why it is important so that the client really moves in his natural habitat, natural surrounding, and social rehabilitation. I want to mention here, this rehab, it's not a professional activity. It is more based on this peer-to-peer support principle. Social rehabilitation has to be studied, and it's about 160 hours course, and only later they can carry out this type of rehab, but they still are not experienced enough. They have this course, they are trained, but our motivators, due to this peer-to-peer support, they have it, they lived with it, they know the situation based on their own experience, as they have their own disability. They know about the problems, they know how they need to communicate, how to work with some tools. And this is what they're trying to teach their clients, to explain how to work. So peer-to-peer support, this is special social rehabilitation and help when with their rights and rights of protected interest, and how to enforce their right once you get in this situation when your health condition is getting worse. They are then socially disadvantaged and they don't know what to do about it. This is when a motivator comes into game and explain, you need to visit these authorities, these offices, what you have right for this contribution, this allowance, and so on. because the client is very often under stress and doesn't know what to do. This is also the way what the motivator has to do, help with dealing with authorities, filling in some applications for contributions and filling in various forms. Very often it is complex and difficult, and very often clients just give up, but with the help of motivators, it can help them.
So this is a form of assistance, so that you can imagine what this is based on. We have individual counseling, as Milan said, but we also have group counseling. This is not very common, but they meet with several clients and discuss, but we have more group activities. Then based on the organization of activities, we have an in-person social work, then distance social work, which was because of COVID. We had to find a way to continue working through different video conference platforms. And we had this kind of work with the client where we had to consider not only the motivator, but also the client. To have some, because we had some respect about the COVID situation. Then we have also correspondence social work, because the clients often have a need to write, so this is why we use this way as well. We also have the classification based on the place of the assistance. They can either come to the center and consult with the motivator, have some interventions, or the other way around. They can also agree on a meeting somewhere else in the terrain, in the field, somewhere at home or at a cafe, in a restaurant. So this is about knowing how to communicate, and the motivator has to adjust to the client so that this is in a nice environment for the client.
Takže toto som vlastne
So this was a summary of the basic points of the activities of the concrete work with the motivator. So the first point is the most key and the most important, perhaps also the most complicated for motivators, and that is looking for clients and contacting them. COVID made this quite hard. Motivators had or struggled with how to reach clients. First of all, this is a new project, so it is one thing to raise awareness about the project itself among people, but the other thing is looking for the client, contacting them. So they used various ways, social networks, institutions, and so on. I believe that this was the most complicated thing for motivators. And the other points, when I already have the client, talk to him or her about the project, what we do and what we offer and how we can help them. The second most important point is creating safe environment for the client. At times when a person doesn't know who to trust, with whom they can share their personal information, it is necessary that the motivator can ensure the client that all the information which will be provided will not be misused in any way, that they really need this information about the client, and they will only use it to help the client. So they really need to create a very safe environment, a nice environment for the client, so that they open up and so that they can work with them further. Then, when we already have this safe atmosphere, we have the case analysis. We take family history, social background, health diagnosis, education history as well. So we really need to find out a large amount of information to be able to work with the client and perhaps to get on the same wave. So we really need as much information as possible to perhaps perform a high-quality social diagnostics, have a look at it from the top. We know that these are the potentials, we have these and these problems, and we have to deal with that. Then we have individual planning. In law, we have stipulated that there should be an individual plan of the client. Within the We Are Equal project, the motivators try to explain to the client that we will set a goal and we will work on that. So goals are, for example, for the mental wellness, or for some we talk about compensation allowances as well, and so on. For example, if the client says that they want to return to the society, that they feel lonely, the motivator says, okay, we can go in this direction, and these will be the goals that we will specify. So this is the definition of the steps. We have a goal, and these are the activities to reach that goal. That is another step. Then the most often used methods. From what I have been mentioning, these methods are especially interviews or dialogues. Then there is some kind of a reflection as well. And working with the client is about the motivator trying to find the best approach to the client, so that the work is as easy and as simple as possible. Of course, we cannot understand that within the work with the client there is a contract. They have clear rules. In the individual plan, the rules are important, because if we don't specify the activities that I have to follow, this is an activity for the motivator, but also for the client. Then this is assessed. So the work with the client is on the basis of we are equal. I will do something and you will do something to reach that goal together. Social interventions within the project, these are set or specified differently, whether this be about the assistance, group activities, looking for activities on the internet, working with institutions. Motivators work with institutions like labor offices, social insurance companies, health insurance companies, municipalities, and so on, and social affairs departments in all different authorities who can help. Then we have different sports interventions as well. If there is some potential in the client, we are trying to bring the client to society through sports, because the sports communities already have some sports potential in them. Within the Paralela project, we had standards through casuistics, and We Are Equal project is a continuation of this project. So work with each project includes or is ended with a final document, casuistic document. Working with the client often takes several years. This has to be drawn up in a written form, which is an output document. We know what they did, who was the client, what was their problem, what was their goal, whether this goal was met or not, and such evaluation of work with the client. So this is a final document to know what was happening during that time. And the last and perhaps most interesting thing is the catamnestic survey. After a few months after finishing the work with the client, the motivator contacts the former client, and this is especially to show interest in the client. After 6 months, they will have a call, agree on a meeting, and they will talk about how the client is doing. The goal is to motivate the client to be able to work and function without a motivator. After 6 months, they will be asked how they managed to, for example, fulfill the long-term goals in terms of goals which were already fulfilled, whether something changed or not. So 6 months later, we contact the former client, we try to find out how they are doing, and this is also included in the report. I tried to be very fast. I hoped you understood everything. But this is a short introduction of the work of a motivator, which I think is quite hard. Also considering the fact that we are working with people with a disability. So if we combine these two things, this is quite complex. We are trying to prepare or create environment which will be as comfortable as possible for them. If we are successful, we are happy, and we hope that this will be a meaningful work also going into the future. Thank you very much for your patience.